r/AskReddit by Reddit. What is your accidentally caught your spouse cheating horror story? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Enjoy the video. Isn't a story about me, actually about a friend's grandparents that I witnessed. So we are in high school, it's a Saturday, and I'm hanging out with two of my girlfriends. We decide to get super high and hotbox my car. Fully blown, we have the most severe case of the munches and decide to go to the Chinese buffet near my house. We walk into the buffet and get seated at a booth near the back. As we are walking up to our booth, I realize my friend's grandma, one of the girls who's there with me, is sitting alone in the booth right next to our intended booth. My friend, let's call her Maddie, gets surprised and gives her grandma a hug. She lives and was raised by her grandparents. As me and my other friends sit down in our booth, we look back and see Maddie and her grandma arguing. A few moments later, Maddie is sitting in the booth with us, and a man who is not her grandpa walks up to sit with her grandma. Then Maddie starts busting out in tears. It wasn't till then when I realized what was happening. I get us all up and we leave immediately. Turns out her grandpa had been following her grandma because he had been suspecting for some time. He was camped outside the restaurant and watched everyone walk in and leave. He originally thought Maddie knew about the affair and called her phone as soon as we left the restaurant. She later explained it was just a wrong place, wrong time occurrence. I was dating this guy I had seen in high school right before I turned 21. And he lived in Washington and I lived in Vegas. While I was there, I found out from a mutual friend he had cheated on me on New Year's Eve. Tried to say she raped him, but the girl still came to the house. He had to talk to his uncle while at his uncle's house, and I was downstairs in the room he had there and saw all these Craigslist emails. I ended up pregnant even on birth control from a time we had been intimate before I started learning this. I had a miscarriage and he blames the symptoms on an STD I must have got from cheating. But I saved up enough money to leave and went back to Vegas. He called me crying saying he'd do anything to bring me back. He shouldn't have done it. I said prove it. He said how, and I said I didn't know. But I didn't have the funds to come back even if I wanted. He said he'd sell his truck for the money. I was going to tell him the next day not to sell it, that I was never going to come, but he sold it 2 hours later without telling me until after. So I told him he sold his truck for nothing. We tried to be friends later, but he called me all kinds of names when I didn't email him. Only way I let him contact me because I took a double and forgot to tell him cause we were busy. Thankfully he's no longer around, and after all that I cut off all ties. He ended up back in Vegas, tried to add me on his new account. I blocked him and get people to have me unblock him, and I blocked them. He passed soon after. Heroin overdose. He got back together with his ex and from what I know now started back up. Had a tight group of friends through high school and beyond. 6 of us had the typical individuals that make up the group, and of course we had one that cheated on his girlfriend a lot and didn't treat her particularly well. Even though we all told him he needed to lift his game, he just ignored our advice mostly. Went out to a pub one Saturday night as we did quite regularly and got asked to leave after something quite innocuous. Our cheating friend suggested we go back to his place for a drink as his girlfriend will be out. Got to his place. I was the one who opened the door on his girlfriend being bent over the couch by one of the other guys in our tight group. It was like slow motion as I could hear the commotion behind me and could feel the body pressure coming from our friend wanting to get in there and kill both of them. Both took off out the back door and bolted. She returned later telling him the friend told her all about him cheating constantly and that's how it happened. Turned out he had used that to get into her pants and she took the bait. We haven't seen him since that night, but remaining groups still reminisce about the scene that confronted us as I opened that door. Started out by her saying she didn't love me. Next day everything goes back to normal, or so I thought. Take her and dog away for weekend on a 600-mile camping driving, spending us time together. Said she loved me. Fake. Basically whole time she had it planned that when she got back it was done. Everything is normal, the I love yous and such is all good. She goes out on the Thursday, just a birthday for a friend. I get back, go on laptop, her Facebook messages pop up between her and a guy she cheated on me with. Basically during our weekend she had been sending nudes to someone else. Best part, she wouldn't send them to me. Not that it matters. I move out. She sleeps with him while the bed's still warm. A week passes, I take dog. During this she has told me wasn't for someone else. Obviously you can guess it was a lie. So I find out she actually been posting pictures of her and him for a while on Instagram. She blocked me. 3 years nearly together, living together for most of it. I had planned to ask her to marry me on our anniversary. Obviously when I saw the messages I broke down, sprained my knuckle. Tried to phone her and her reply, "Crap happened, you didn't listen." Yeah, so now I have our dog. Haven't spoken months. They confessed their relationship for each other. I get left myself with nothing other than crawling back to parents. Months on and I've met someone who makes me more than happy. Oh, after finding out pretty much put me into a spiral downwards for my life. But all is better, and I'm glad cause I've met someone with more life ideas. TLDR, he ruined Christmas and my birthday. I had been engaged for 5 years, and in the relationship for 7. My mum had passed nearly 3 years before, which hit me very hard, but he was my rock. I also discovered a couple of health issues I had inherited from my mum as a result of her passing, so I was in and out of hospital a lot that year. It was a stressful time, but we were strong. Or so I thought. In 2016, he applied to join the police in Cheshire, England. I supported him through revising exams, training etc, and after being accepted, he moved up in the September. We agreed to let my son finish high school before moving up. He had rented a lovely 2-bed house. Even if the estate agents hadn't cleaned thoroughly, there were cake wrappers and rubbish shoved in cupboards. It was gross. Anyway, forward to December, the day before Christmas Eve. He was due to come down to spend Christmas with my family, but said he was too tired to drive after a hard day training, so he would make his way down Christmas Eve. He also apologized for not being able to get me and my son a gift, but I understood. New house plus job equals less money. I thought nothing more of it. We spent Christmas Day with my family and traveled to his new place on Boxing Day. I go up to the bathroom, and on the floor is the corner of a condom wrapper. I confront him, calmly and away from my 13-year-old, and he denies it, stating that it must have been amongst the rubbish left by former tenants. Tells me not to be paranoid. I try and put it out of my mind, but something didn't feel right. All of a sudden he was talking about trying for a baby. We had previously talked, but he explicitly said he didn't want one. Forward again to January. He is now a probationary police officer. His phone bill arrived through my door. We shared a contract, and since the niggling feeling hadn't gone, I had a look to see who he had called before Christmas. Googled a number one didn't recognize, and heard a sultry voice say Cheshire Companions. I hung up and logged into his bank and saw that after the phone call, he had withdrawn his last £250. I felt sick. He was on a night shift and I text him photos of my discovery. He drives 3 hours after his shift and arrived early hours of the morning in tears, swearing nothing actually happened, that he couldn't go through with it, and claiming he must be a sex addict because it's his go-to when he is stressed. I had yet to cry, still feeling sick and numb. Being the mug I agree that we can try and make it work if he gets therapy. He offered to quit his job and everything, so I'm thinking he must be serious. Well, he decided to move the rest of his stuff out slowly over the following few weeks, and then dumped me by text the morning of my birthday, stating he couldn't cope with the stress of the job and my health issues. I caught my dad cheating on my mom when I was a kid. To make a long story short, when smartphones came around, my dad would have the usual dad problems with new technology. He was always really careless too. He'd be watching porn with his back to the door when he thought I wasn't home. I'd walk in to tell him something or to watch TV. This often happened in the living room. Pretend I didn't see anything and walk out. I just figured, yeah, it's weird and uncomfortable, but it's just porn. In a hoe, my dad wanted me to install an app that did something, and he couldn't figure it out by himself. I accidentally opened the text message app and found hundreds and hundreds of conversations with a woman. Nude pictures, videos, the works. I didn't know what to do. My 14-year-old mind thought, well, this is nothing physical, so maybe it's not worth mentioning. I just wanted my mom's feelings to not be hurt. It took about a week of avoiding both of them until she asked me what was wrong. That's when I told her. She smiled sadly and told me not to worry about it, that she wasn't dumb. She knew but he didn't know she knew. She told me that despite everything, she silently trusted him to always use protection. I don't like my dad very much since then. For unrelated reasons during a verbal heated discussion with him, I told him that I knew and insulted him heavily for it. They're still married, and their relationship is much more best friends than husband and wife. It's a very weird dynamic. I still struggle a lot with the idea of relationships and marriage. Ninja Reddit, he didn't use protection. I have a half sister that even he didn't know about until I was 18, but that's a story for another time. Thank you for watching Reddit. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more r/AskReddit videos. Share your stories in the comments section below.